Yo, what up everyone, Tay here. And I'm currently in the middle of working on a longer video to talk about some big Avengers Doomsday stuff, some multiversal stuff. But there was a pretty big Spider-Man bombshell that I just couldn't help but stop what I was doing and make a quick video on. Especially because I just got asked a super thanks question regarding exactly what we're going to talk about in today's video in my last video, and I said I'm going to talk about that next. But before we get into it, I was just going to say, the first official reactions to the Thunderbolts have been dropping in the past few hours from when I'm recording this, and they have been overwhelmingly positive, which I was so happy to see. But I just thought I'd mention it because if you are getting hyped up for the Thunderbolts movie but impatient that you have to wait another week until you can see it, then you should definitely check out my last video where I go into some of the big details that have come out about the movie recently and also go through my final theories and predictions on everything that could happen in the movie. So yeah, if you're just aching for some Thunderbolts content to watch to help satiate your appetite until the movie comes out, you should definitely check out my last video. It is linked in the description down below. And then also, because this is just going to be a short video, there won't be any super thanks at the end of this one. I thought it'd be good to kind of let them build up a little bit, but I will definitely be getting to those in the next video. So just a reminder that if you would like to leave a super thanks with a question or a comment on this video, that those are greatly appreciated and that I will read and respond to those in the next video. Alright, so the big Spider-Man detail that I wanted to talk about today is that I just discovered that Marvel Studios used the Spider-Man theme music, the Spider-Man score by Michael Giacchino, in the season finale of Daredevil Born Again. And I'm sure there are probably some of you who picked up on this in the moment, in the actual episode, but I will fully admit that I did not. This was totally something that I missed when watching the season finale. And they actually use the Spider-Man theme in two scenes in the finale. The first one is when Matt and Karen are looking through Foggy's old files and discover Fisk's plan to turn the Red Hook port into his own lawless criminal enterprise outside of state and federal law. And then the second time it's played is when Matt and Karen are staking out the Red Hook port in just one of the scenes afterwards, where we see the new construction that's occurring and all of the different anti-vigilante task force agents are crawling all over the place. And I can't play these scenes in this video because of the music copyright issues, but you can just go back and watch the episode again for yourself and you'll hear it if you watch these scenes. And it is definitely, without a doubt, 100% a soft version of the Spider-Man score that we've heard in all of the past MCU Spider-Man movies. And where this gets interesting is in a recent interview with Dario, the Born Again showrunner, he confirmed that this is definitely the Spider-Man theme in the episode. But what's crazy is that he said he didn't even know that Marvel Studios were going to do that until they started mixing the score into the episode. And that's actually a really big deal because this means that this was not just some fun Easter egg that was snuck in there by the show creators or something, but that this was actually a very conscious decision on the part of Marvel Studios to where they went out of their way to place this Spider-Man Easter egg and this Spider-Man music into two very specific moments of the finale. Because in both of these scenes where the Spider-Man theme is used is when Matt and Karen are discussing the Red Hook port and Fisk's plan on creating his own lawless area of New York that will likely become some kind of underworld crime syndicate of different crime bosses and villains all working under Wilson Fisk. And I think it's really telling that the Spider-Man music is used in the same scene when Matt tells Karen that in order to defeat Fisk, that they are going to have to first raise an army. So yeah, one of the main reasons why I think this is potentially a pretty big deal is that the only reason that I think Marvel Studios would do something like this is because they are trying to foreshadow and let us all know that a Spider-Man and Daredevil team-up is coming at some point in the future, and that Spider-Man will somehow be involved in the Mayor Fisk story with all of the huge changes that just happened in New York, with Fisk declaring martial law and passing the Safe Streets Act to officially outlaw vigilantes. Which, of course, seems to be expected because with Spider-Man being a character that is based in New York, it's hard to imagine how this wouldn't affect him in some way. So I am glad that Marvel Studios snuck this music in there as a little wink to the fans to let us know that yes, he will be involved. We don't know how yet, but he'll be involved somehow. Now, obviously, I don't think that this means that Spider-Man is going to appear in the Born Again series, because we know from Brad Winderbaum that Spider-Man actually can't appear in any of the MCU Disney Plus shows because of the rights deal with Sony. However, what is possible is that we could see Daredevil in a future Spider-Man movie. Because, I mean, we already saw Matt Murdock in a brief cameo in Spider-Man No Way Home, so there's no reason why we couldn't see that happen again in a future Spider-Man film, and that maybe Daredevil will even appear in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Now, if Daredevil does appear in Spider-Man 4, I'm not saying that this means that the movie will end up being an adaptation of the Devil's Reign comic or anything like that, because at this point, I don't think that's what's going to happen. But with all the changes happening in New York under Fisk's new laws, this could easily end up leading to a new wave of villains and crime bosses popping up across New York that Spider-Man could then have to deal with. You know, because we have heard rumors that Mr. Negative may end up being the main villain of Spider-Man 4, so maybe what's happening in New York with Kingpin could somehow usher in his introduction into the MCU. And there's, of course, other villains we've heard are going to return in Spider-Man Brand New Day, like the Vulture or Matt Gargan as the Scorpion. And there's also just all sorts of different Spider-Man villains that would tie into that crime boss underworld that we could also see perhaps like Tombstone, characters like that. So yeah, there's a lot of ways that Spider-Man Brand New Day could still tie into everything that was set up in Daredevil Born Again without it being directly tied into the Daredevil Born Again plot or with Wilson Fisk even appearing in the movie. Because one thing that came out recently that did surprise me is in a recent interview that Vincent D'Onofrio gave, he said that he's not even sure if the Kingpin versus Spider-Man thing will ever happen because he's not sure if Kingpin can even appear in any of the MCU movies because the character rights for the Kingpin character are co-owned by both Disney and Sony. And when he said this, I was kind of surprised because for like the last 3 years, ever since Marvel Studios announced that they were doing Daredevil Born Again, Vincent D'Onofrio has been going off in multiple interviews and different con appearances where he's been talking about how excited he is for a Kingpin versus Spider-Man showdown to happen, and that he's very confident that it will happen at some point and that it's just a matter of time. So to hear him now say, oh, I don't know if it's ever going to happen, kind of made me wonder if maybe that was a lie that Marvel Studios put him up to saying, because we know that's something that Marvel Studios does do at certain points where they will put up their actors to put out false information to put hardcore fans off the trail of what their true plans are. And the other thing is it doesn't even really make that much sense, because if Sony is the other studio that co-owns the rights to Kingpin, then that just seems like it would ensure that if Kingpin does appear in an MCU film, that it would most likely be a Spider-Man film, because those are the only movies that Sony also has a stake in. So yeah, personally, I wouldn't read too much into Vincent D'Onofrio's comments about a Spider-Man and Kingpin showdown never happening, because that just seems a little suspicious, and I think it will happen at some point. The bigger question is just when. Because we still don't really know any official details about the plot of what Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to be. We just know what we know from the comics and what we've heard in different leaks and rumors, which is all sorts of stuff. So, depending on when the timeline of events of Spider-Man Brand New Day occur, you know, if it takes place before or after or concurrently with the events of Avengers Doomsday, will really make a difference. Because if it turns out that the events of Brand New Day take place just before Avengers Doomsday, then that does give Marvel Studios a lot of leeway in what they can do with the story. And if that were to be the case, then the events of the movie could actually tie into what's happening in New York with Daredevil Born Again in some pretty big ways. However, if that's not the case and the events of the movie take place concurrently with Avengers Doomsday or after Avengers Doomsday, then it seems more likely that they would probably wait until Spider-Man 5. And remember, during the first Spider-Man trilogy, you know, the home trilogy that they did, part of that deal between Sony and Disney was that Marvel Studios had to release a Spider-Man movie every 2 years. So now that they are starting up a new trilogy, it will most likely be the same case again with this new deal, where Spider-Man 5 will likely come out in 2028, and then Spider-Man 6 will likely come out in 2030. So it's not crazy to think that Marvel Studios and Sony could already be planning out their loose plot plans for what's going to happen in Spider-Man 5. So yeah, maybe this could all culminate in Spider-Man 5 with Spider-Man and Daredevil taking down the Kingpin, or maybe it'll be something else. But like I said, there are other ways for Spider-Man to kind of fit into this story without it being directly tied into the events of Daredevil Born Again. So yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. But I did think that this was pretty big news and that it was something I wanted to do a shorter video on because, like I said, in my opinion, this just seems to confirm that Marvel Studios definitely have some kind of plans to at least do a Spider-Man and Daredevil team-up of some kind. Because again, that music played just before Matt was talking about how they needed to raise an army to take down Fisk. And that doesn't seem like an accident to me. So yeah, you guys let me know what you think about this in the comments down below, and let me know if you even caught the Spider-Man theme music in the finale when you were watching it. I'm really curious if anyone actually heard that in real time, because like I said, even though it's definitely there, it is pretty subtle. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below, and remember that if you would like to leave a super thanks with a question or a comment on this video, that those are greatly appreciated and that I will read and respond in the next video. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or share it. That really helps out a lot. And yeah, I will be back soon with the next one that I am working on right now, where we are going to go deep on a bunch of Avengers and multiverse stuff. So yeah, watch out for that one dropping soon, and I will see you then.